Well, g'day everyone. We've got a fantastic tasting coming up in a little over a week's time, and we're going to be tasting the Auld Distillers collection from Jack Weber's world of whiskey. We've been going through some amazing stuff from Jack Weber's over the last couple of weeks, and we've now got to a point where we're getting into these fantastic drams. So we've got 5 whiskies in the tasting. 4 of them we're going to crack open now and have just a little quick go at and a little quick preview. The 5 whiskies in the tasting are the Glencadam 7-year-old, Glenilgan 11-year-old, Benrinez 18, Croftingia 11 years, and of course the Cole Eala 31-year-old, which we'll open up in another little video shortly. But let's just crack straight into these drams. This is the first time we'll be opening them, and we're pretty excited. Some of these whiskies we've been eyeing off for a while. We're going to start with the Glencadam. Let's hope these all have a clean opening here, and that cork sounded pretty good. So Glencadam, obviously Highland distillery, and the only distillery in Angus, the Highland region of Angus. Pretty big history. Started in 1825, so not too long. Another 4 or 5 years, and they'll be in the 200-year celebrations, which will be a pretty exciting time for them. This is a single cask, bourbon cask. All of these are cask number 417 of only 169 bottles. 57.5% ABV. So these are all cask strength. And I think one of the great things about this, and particularly in the case of Glencadam, is generally speaking, all of their releases are at 46% ABV. So this gives us a chance to have a little bit of a look into what the spirit is like in its truest form. Really beautiful nose. Quite tangy. Quite tangy and fresh. The palate's lovely, quite malty, a little bit of sort of grassy hay note there, some sort of lemon tang, almost like a bit of lemon curd. And the finish is medium. It doesn't hang around for too long, but it's really pleasant. A little bit of sort of like spice lingering there as well. But this is a cracking dram, and interesting to try it at this 7-year release. Obviously, they're bourbon barrel releases. They've got a few different ones that they do, all at 46% though. So this is a really interesting opportunity to try the spirit in perhaps its most true form, and it is. It's delicious. So that's going to be a great one as well. Glenilgan here, the 11-year-old, and another interesting distillery. Speyside Distillery, owned by Diageo. And I guess we normally see this one in its blended malts, in its blends. There we go. We got her open. Now, 2007 distilled, another beautiful clean opening. One of only 161 bottles in this range, and a distillery, I guess, pretty famous for its sort of bit like honey or marmalade-y notes, really rich drams. This one is another one that is at cask strength, as they all are. 57.6. Nose, I think that marmalade is definitely really present. There's a bit of a distillery characteristic, maybe a little bit of preserved lemon as well. The palate is awesome as well. The palate is kind of, it's sweet, almost like a liqueur, like Cointreau. Really sort of rich, fruity dram. And then the richness sort of continues on the palate there. And again, much like the Glencadam, this Glenilgan, the high ABV, it doesn't come through at all. It's really, really well represented. And yeah, like a really moorish palate, a little bit more spice comes through on the finish, a little bit of black peppercorn, a little bit of anise coming through nicely. The third one we're going to open is the Benrinez. So let's crack into this one here. 18-year-old Benrinez. This one's opened up a little bit easier, thank you, Jack. Cask number 304712. One of only 152 bottles. Now, Benrinez again is probably most well known for being a great component in many blends. most famously probably Johnny Walker. And this one, well, this is another one of Jack's interesting releases where he splits between casks, or he splits the cask between releases. So the rest of this cask is actually in his hunting dogs selection. So he's gone half in the Auld Distillers and half in the hunting dog selection. So if you look up the cask number, you'll see both the hunting dogs and this Auld Distillers. This one is a little bit more subdued in the glass straight away. I feel like this is one that might need a little bit more time to open. Again, we're just opening these all straight away now, so the nose we're getting from them might be quite different to what we do on the tasting next Thursday, but still a lot of fruit there, more sort of gravitating towards orchard fruit now, apples and pears. And a lot more spice on the palate than anything we've had so far. Maybe a little bit of ginger and cardamom pod, and a little bit more of a lengthy finish again too. So it's lingering around for a quite reasonable amount of time there, and the nose is quite interestingly, literally in the last sort of 10 seconds opening up a little bit as well. These are all cask strength, and the question might be, do we put water in any of them come the tasting? So far, they're not whiskies that I would say need water, require water, but when we get to the tasting, it might be interesting to see what a little bit of water does. And the last one we're going to open now is the Croft Engia. I've got a big fan of the Croft Engia in Owen.
Yep.
So I thought, if you want to jump over and have a little try of this one, obviously the peated component for Loch Lomond, and you're a bit of a fan about it. This is the first time you've tried this one. What do you reckon?
Yeah, this is probably already one of my favourites of the ones we've had so far. So Croft Gear comes as a little bit of an internal name that Loch Lomond gives to their blends. So you'll see it mainly in their Molten Grain blend. It gives a little bit of depth and character.
Yeah.
We've seen quite a lot of these, about 11 and 12 years. Loch Lomond sold a lot of like the 2006 barrels recently, so I'm really excited to see these get a little bit older.
Oh yeah, this is delicious. And I guess as far as peat goes, it's completely different to what you'd expect from Islay peat. This is fairly sweet peat, and it's got a nice tang to it as well.
That typical Loch Lomond zesty, lemony, sort of sourdoughy note.
Yeah. Super duper delicious. And another one from another great one from this Auld Distillers collection from Jack Weber. We're going to open the Cole Ela in a separate video. This dram warrants its own video, and can't wait to open that and try that and spend a little bit more time talking about that and pulling it apart. But as far as these 5 drams go, Owen, really, really interesting, and I think they're going to make for a really good lineup. Trying them side by side, I think it's going to be a good night.
Absolutely.
What are you looking forward to most?
Going to be good to get even further into crofting gear.
Yeah.
But that Glencairn at 7 is going to be really interesting. We've had some stellar 18-year-old Ben Rennesses in the past, so
yeah,
I'm excited to see that open up as well.
It's going to be fun tasting and a great mixture, all bourbon barrels, but a good mixture of typical sort of Islay peat, or a little bit different in the Cole Ela case, and then the interesting peat of the Croft Engia, and then a few other Speyside and Highland gems in there. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you next Thursday night in the tasting. I'll put in the link to buy the ticket for the night just below, and feel free to get involved. It's going to be a good tasting. Cheers.
Absolutely.